Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the March session of the Southern Fried DNN User Group. We are excited tonight to spend some time with one of our favorite development groups, longtime supporters and power workers in the DNN community of developers. Mandeep Singh is here from Mandeep's, and we are going to be talking tonight and getting a sneak preview at Live Visualizer, the new structured content related module offering from Mandeep's, and we're again very excited to dive into this and get a pre-release, a beta release type of view of this, and hear what his thoughts were and some of the problems they were trying to solve with this pretty exciting release. But as we do when we are having any Southern Fried User Group meeting, we always begin with community information and community news, and tonight's meeting is our first time getting together after we were all out at DNN Summit 2019. And we had a fantastic time out at DNN Summit. I don't know if you can see in the background here, but I came away from Summit with the large backdrop for the photo booth. So whether you can see him well or not, we are hanging out with the Yeti here in the background. I don't know how well that came out in the video. Clint, did that come out or did it freeze on me?
I'm sorry, you said can we see the banner?
Yeah, I was also moving my screen so that we could pan the Yeti there. All right, and you can see it on the large view to the behind of us here. So Kelly and Rebecca, we have your fantastic photo booth backdrop here in our background. Kelly, yeah, you just came on. I don't know if you can see that back there. DNN Summit was a good event. I think that at least for Clint and David and I, this is the first time we've probably gotten back together and connected for more than 5 minutes since then, because there's been a rush since then. But I thought something nice for us to do would be a little recap of DNN Summit. Again, we work hard. Several of us, all of us, are on the board and the organizers for DNN Summit, so there's a lot of hard work that goes on behind the scenes to put on an event like this. And when it goes well, we're thrilled. And then the day afterwards, we're exhausted and we're ready to rest, which we did up at the slopes this year. But let's pass it around the room real quick, just to get some highlights and some things that you experienced and appreciated from Summit. And then maybe Clint, I'll hold on for video and things towards the end for another couple screens after digest. But Clint, why don't we start with you?
Oh man, well, so I mean, for me, Summit was fun. I always feel like it's kind of like a family reunion, right? I mean, you see your uncles or cousins or people that you haven't seen in a while, but you talk to a lot, at least online. I was glad that John Galloway from Microsoft, who's also the executive director of the .NET Foundation, was able to not only just give the keynote, obviously, but he really spent time with the community and integrated and tried to learn about us, and even went to the slopes with us, right? So for me, that was a really positive thing to be able to, for our community to be able to meet him and him to kind of experience it. And he commented about that, when we were going to the airport and throughout the weekend. Also, I mean, I didn't get to sit throughout and in too many entire sessions because I was running around taking pictures, because we have been using the same pictures on the website for 5 years, and I was bound and determined that we're going to have
one of the things for all of us running it is that we don't always get to attend sessions because we're busy doing things to keep the show running. I think that's the same for any of us. We barely got to go to but a handful of our own sessions.
Yep, and I did like what Kelly and Rebecca did with the photo booth. I thought that was pretty cool, because we were able to tweet out, pictures, because it's kind of like, I don't know, the red carpet or whatever. You take your picture in front of the banner, and people seem to have fun with that. So, I mean, it's always good to connect with people, but those are a couple things that stick out to me.
All right, David?
Yeah, I actually had a different experience this year than I've ever had. In one regard, you're mentioning usually we're so busy that we just don't get to go around, but I didn't do too well helping you guys out because I wanted to go to every session that I was not speaking in, and I literally went to every session, slot that I wasn't speaking in because it was such great content this year. I don't know if it just worked that way because of the way mine worked out and where it fit in, but it was really good content, a lot of great presentations, variety. Of course, I was interested in a lot of the more technical kind of stuff, and Roundtable was a lot better this year. It was really nice, well moderated, and it's just nice to see everybody as always and hang out and kind of like a reunion.
I'm gonna pass this around too because Mandeep also attended this year. Mandeep, do you want to speak for just a couple of seconds about what you experienced at the summit?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's always refreshing every year to kind of connect back and meet everybody. I think the sessions were great. A lot of cool. I mean, the roundtable is always very valuable as well. So overall, I think it was a great year, like always.
Yeah, Kelly. She might be on mute. We'll see.
I may have. Let me see. Where is she at? There she is. Okay. There we go.
How about you, Kelly?
You're unmuted now. She's frozen.
She's smiling, but well, I'll tell you what. I'll jump in just to say that training went fantastically this year. We always have some kind of technical bump or thing that we've got to get through, but this year we did a few different things with training courses, and we had really good feedback from the folks that were in those training courses, so that we took the module development and split it into module development introduction and advanced module development, and both classes were full, and both classes appreciated the content they went through. We also did an Evoke and kind of more specifically liquid content training session, and that was the first time that we'd done that, and they had some good feedback and participation with that, and so it was again, a lot of hard work went into Summit, getting it going. And there are a lot of benefits. If you're someone who comes to these regularly, you get to see your friends and connect with people and do networking to see who's had similar problems and fixed issues, and you help each other out. But again, every time we have a conference, somewhere around 50% of the people who are attending are brand new and they've never been to a conference before. So you're always running into brand new companies and businesses and people who are learning, and they're learning something that you learned 2 years ago, and so you're able to say, hey, let me give you that thing, and you get them on the right path, and that's the whole point of DNN Summit. I'll kind of wrap up a little bit of talking about Summit.
Kelly just joined back, so her audio might be working.
Yeah, hey Kelly, do you want to mention yours? The logo disappeared again. Kelly, you want to chime in?
Can you hear me?
We do.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yeah, I was having some technical difficulties. It was a really great experience. I got to meet a lot of new people as well as connect with people in the community that I know or maybe I had met online and hadn't had a chance to meet face-to-face with. We had a couple clients there, so that was a good experience for me, being able to put some FaceTime in with our clients, get to know them a little bit better, and really just establish that ongoing business relationship, because I mean, really, while it's a great event and it's fun, that's why we're all there, right, is to grow our businesses. So it was, I feel for our company, it was very beneficial. Our sponsorship, everything worked out really well.
And that might be her dropping out. She dropped.
Yep.
Well, thank you, Kelly. So we are in the process of planning information for next year's event. It's never too soon to express interest in being a sponsor for the next year. We are moving locations this year, and we are heading more than likely, potentially, to Florida for DNN Summit 2020. It was more committal than that at DNN Summit, but I understand that there are complexities into choosing location, and several locations are being discussed. It doesn't mean that it's heading out of Florida, but if I was positive before it was going to be in Orlando, I'm not positive now. It might be in Orlando or nearby or 40 miles outside of, but we're not talking.
Hopefully warmer, maybe.
It's definitely going to be warmer than Denver. We're not going to be skiing. We're going to be swimming if we're doing anything, or lounging out by the pool. There could be a Space Coast theme. There could be a warm Yeti and board shorts theme. We'll have a couple of different options out there, but that is being decided as we speak, and within the next month, we should be able to give some more specific information, possibly by the next time we have our next SoFri. However, talking about other events that are coming up, we have DNN Connect here in just a few months. David, are you going out again this year? Who's going?
Yeah, I'm planning on going.
Dang.
You know, we'll see. Knock on wood. You know.
Yeah.
But going to be great this year in Switzerland, Champéry, Switzerland.
Yep.
So probably won't be too much skiing going on or snow sports, but it'll still be very nice. They have a lot of outdoor capabilities around there, for hiking and biking and
Yep.
all that. And of course, the conference is going to be great as always.
Fantastic.
So if you get a chance, come on out. The early bird is over, but it's still an incredible deal in the sense that it's all inclusive.
My understanding is that it's a different kind of structure and a different kind of cost benefit, in that when you're paying for that ticket, it's all inclusive, right?
Yeah, that's right. Food, drinks, and lodging and conference all.
So you just got to get there and pay a ticket, and you're good to go.
That's right. Yep.
It's pretty fantastic. Well, we'll hear more about it, I'm sure, next month as they start to get more specific about some things, but we'll be quite envious, David, and look for our recap when you get back. Heading out to the community blog, we have, I don't want to call it a slow month, but it's definitely been fewer posts than some of the last months, with all of us out and traveling much of February. It was almost a week and a half we were gone. It made for a slow set of posts and things, but I will bring up just a couple of things that I wanted to mention from the community blog. Heading over to the DNN Digest, Clint, you kind of have a listing of some of the things that have happened and gone on. I'm going to let you jump into these in a moment, but before I do, and my mouse just died. Before I do, I want to mention DNN Docs, in that one of the more exciting sessions that I did have a chance to sit in on at DNN Summit was the DNN Docs session with Kelly Ford, and the presentation there was very exciting. Not the least of which is our ability to jump in and get involved and make better documentation ourselves. The message that left that meeting or that session was that if you've ever gone looking for doc information, or if you've ever had a client that you've set up DNN for and you've given them information, and then they say, well, where's the manual? Where's the documentation? I want to know XYZ, and you cringe because you think, this isn't in it, or that isn't in it. It's now in our hands. And if you want documentation to be better, you can participate. And yes, you can do pull requests and you can physically get involved, but if you want to just type up information or correct an issue that's wrong, you can post those as issues as well, and they'll get worked on. So it's a pretty big undertaking. It's one that had a lot of people involved, a lot of people here involved. Kelly Ford is the main contact who was really running the show, but Clint was involved, David was involved. Good friend of mine from the XMOD Pro world, Patrick Ryan, was involved. There were a lot of people who were contributing to this and making a big difference. And when we think of open source and community, for community by community, this is a stellar example of that.
Absolutely.
Clint, anything you want to chime in on for docs? Otherwise, I'll head back over to Digest.
Well, yes, I think you should change the was involved, was, past tense to is in present tense, because we're all still actively working on it. And, yeah, I mean, even Southerners can contribute to the doc system, right? So it's not too hard. We were really hoping that people will, kind of see the light. And I think that it kind of parallels what's happened with the platform, right? The source code going back to the community, and then it takes a little while before the community is like, oh, wow, I can really make a pull request to the core, and it'll actually get dealt with and handled. And then once they have that light bulb moment, then it's like, oh, then they start looking and contributing. And so you've seen the pull request with the platform go up over time. And so the same thing has happened here with the docs, and we're hoping that movement or at least participation will happen in the docs section too. One thing I do want to call out is that the docs, even though you look at it and you think, oh, these are just docs, if you click on that API nav menu, Ryan, this is actually going to, at the very top in the blue, it's going to tie into like a developer's experience even inside of Visual Studio, right, with the ability to like update the comments and things that you'll see on some of the core files. So in that sense, there's a little bit of overlap from the docs team with the technology team, and when they're sending out releases. You trying to get him to go to an example?
Yeah.
So I do want to mention that because and this is one of the areas that Kelly is really passionate about, right? So that when a developer gets started and they start wondering, like when you're first trying to figure out how to develop a module, a lot of times you may not get IntelliSense or helpful hints or suggestions that are comments in the code. This docs, the system is going to overlap into that. And so we illustrated in that session that you said, and Ryan, the power that we have. Like you can make a pull request, and then the core reviewers of the doc system get notified. And as soon as your pull request is reviewed and merged, it can kick off a build process. And then what you have just contributed can be live on the site within like a couple minutes. David, do you want to speak to some of the speed test results you saw on this thing?
I'm deer in the headlights at this moment. What are you talking about?
The speed test that you did with something?
You ran page speed test, like Google page speed test on.
Oh, that's right, I did. Oh man, my brain was shifting over to the community site thing. But yeah, this is screaming fast. I don't remember what the stats were, but there was like 100 on desktop and real high on mobile. I think it was in the low 90s, I believe, or so.
Yeah, that's right. So what's happening here is it's spitting out a static site, and that makes it really good for SEO and for speed. So there's a lot of good stuff going here. Admittedly, there are some still gaps and holes within the documentation, but in those scenarios, we hope to fix that. But we also hope that people will just jump in and say like, hey, here's some content, or at least create suggestions. So we are definitely excited about the doc system.
So back over to the digest, you had a few different things that were kind of opening up your digest.
Yeah, so along those lines, the DNNsoftware.org is the new community site, and the awareness group led by Will Stroll, and they've got kind of a sub-team within his group, are taking on the community site. So there again, that's the community being handed off, and this is just kind of a one-pager where you can say that you want to help if you scroll down a little bit more. So like if anybody's watching this recording and you want to be part of like building the new community site, you can definitely do that. So this is where it's all starting, and the main DNN site will be more marketing focused, where the community site will be obviously community and more technically focused, and again there'll be overlaps with the docs here. So more empowerment to the community, and it's another good thing that we've got going on. But we have a lot going on, so we need a lot of help, a lot of volunteers. So hopefully people can motivate. And then let's see, if you go back to the digest, I'm trying to think what else we had. So we did have some music that happened. You can kind of listen to that, I guess, at your own convenience.
A shout out to all of the MVPs was put into remix format, rapid fire rap format, mixed in with the DNN Summit Yeti song.
It was recorded on a Yeti microphone, and it wasn't all the MVPs, because some of them have like hard names to make rhyme.
That's true. That's fair point. Yeah.
So if you have a difficult name, or if I couldn't make it happen, I apologize.
Yeah.
David was my producer and background vocalist, and Ron Miles was
Ron Miles and Clint Patterson there.
Yeah.
Thank you much, guys, for being awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
The last thing I think, this board. So
we need to come to this part. Yep.
Yeah. So for the last two DNN Digest, I've mentioned the .NET Foundation and the open membership, where anybody can be a member of the .NET Foundation. Now, why it's important to be a member is so that you can get a vote here on the board. Well, that's 1 week. So this is. The .NET Foundation is a nonprofit, like 501c3 entity that Microsoft created, but at the same time, Microsoft doesn't want to own it. So they kind of got it started. They put their name behind it, put a lot of their resources behind it. And what this does is it helps facilitate open source projects. So you may hear this and you're like, well, what does that mean for us, or how do we benefit? So I put a link in here to a blog that I wrote about how we do benefit. But just for example, when the DNN tag comes out with a build, they're using Azure DevOps, which is like a pipeline where you can click a button and it builds and it does a lot of testing and things like that. That Azure DevOps account is provided to us by the .NET Foundation. They also pay for meetups for our user group here.
Our Southern Pride user group.
That's right, yep. And they send swag out. And there are a lot of benefits that we get. Having John Galloway at the conference, we learned about a benefit that we didn't even know was possible, and we weren't using it, which is the enterprise LastPass login that would be very helpful to us right now, given that we can't update our release that's listed in the Azure Web App Gallery, right? So they're very supportive, not just of us, but of all the projects in the foundation. And so what Microsoft did was they got this thing started, and then they kind of said, all right, we want the open source community to drive it. And so right now they're having elections, and Mitchell Sellers, who's DNN tag lead, and Sean Walker, who obviously started DNN, are both running for the board. Now they got 40-some candidates running, and they all have very impressive backgrounds. And you can see Sean's tweet there. But the voting, I think, is from now. It's like a week until March 28th. So we're hoping that we can get either Sean or Mitchell or both on the board, because it would be awesome for our community. And so again, what Microsoft did, they started it, and then now they're kind of pulling back. They're leaving one board member will be from Microsoft, and the rest of the board members will be people who are from the open source community, right? And it could be WinForms, it could be web, it could be all kind of stuff. So it's they're navigating new waters, and it's kind of awesome to watch happen.
All right. Well, we're kind of coming to the end of things to run through in the digest and in community-related items. I'll kind of pass it around the room to see if we have anything else that we've missed. I'm sure there's been more going on, but we might not have it on screen or on the tip of our tongues at the moment. So David or Clint or anybody else online in the online session, have we forgotten anything that's worthy of mentioning right now?
Well, hey, Joe's learning structured content, so that's good.
Absolutely, fantastic.
That's right.
All right. Well, then we reached the best part of this meetup. From here, we kind of kicked off by saying that we were going to get a sneak preview of Live Visualizer tonight. This is the latest offering. We really saw it announced, I think, right back at Summit. Came out as an email that was out in the Mandeep's newsletter. And we immediately said, oh, wait a minute, we've got to talk to Mandeep about this and have him come on for our next meeting. And so I think that was scheduled while we were still at Summit, if not very close to it. So without further ado, I will pass the mic over to Mandeep Singh to both do some introductions for his team that he has online with us tonight, and to really dive into what we're excited to see here for Live Visualizer.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, you're in good shape.
All right, great. Thank you. I would like to start by saying thanks for providing us with this opportunity. I mean, I'm really excited to be here and giving us a chance to show off Live Visualizer to the community. I've been joined by a lot of different members from my team today, so I'm going to take a few minutes here and introducing everyone. VP of the company, Gagandeep Singh, is with us. Also, Manish Kumar is us. He's the technical lead, and he's pretty much the brain behind Live Visualizer. His team member, Narendra Singh, is with us as well, and I just noticed we have Ashish with us too. He manages our customer service, so he's probably the first line of contact whenever you open a support ticket. So he's joined a few minutes ago too, so we got a full house here. All right, so let's get started and look at what Live Visualizer is and what we're trying to accomplish with it and where we are so far. So, I mean, I'm talking to a technical audience here, so I'm not going to go into basics, but what Live Visualizer is for us is trying to solve three problems. The first one is it is the structured content editing solution for DNN-enabled platforms. So I would say that is the 80% or the 90% of what Live Visualizer is. But there's other aspect to it. It can also be used as an app builder. We have a concept of extensible data sources that we'll talk about for just briefly today. But down the road, version 2, version 3, it has the potential to be really used as an app builder within the platform. And the third thing that really we're trying to solve with Live Visualizer is we have this notion of headless CMS where there's basically no front end and you just worry about or work with data and use your REST API to basically use the data. This is a concept kind of similar to what Liquid Content did as well. So that is also something that we're going to solve with Live Visualizer, and we'll talk about that briefly too today. I'm going to try to run through these slides as quickly as I can, do some great demos for you guys today. At any point, if anyone has questions, feel free to stop me. I'd like to address them right then and there when they're relevant and in context. So feel free to go ahead and stop me whenever you need my attention. All right, so let's look at what structured content is. And again, I'm not going to go in definitions of what Wikipedia says or what some of those great articles talk about it, but from context of Live Visualizer, or what we're going to talk about today, when I refer to structured content, I'm basically referring to four things. Number one being is the actual structure of the content. If you're familiar with Liquid Content, they call this content types. You have different types of content. For example, you got an employee, a person, you got a recipe, and so forth. So we will look at that perspective of Live Visualizer. How do we create different structures? We just took the word structure because, hey, it's structured content, so why not? So we went with that terminology instead of calling it content type or something else. The second thing we're going to look at is how do we actually manage content, which is how do we create content, edit it, update it, delete it, and so forth. Now we do this in a centralized content library. Again, this is more similar to Liquid Content where you have this one centralized library where you add all your data and manage it from there. Your content manager does not have to go from page to page to go ahead and update the site. Having said that, you're not limited to that. So it does come with a front-end aspect as well. So if you want to edit the data from the module like you're used to, you could do that as well. The third aspect we're going to look at for the structured content is the actual presentation of that content through templates. And they're razor-driven, which we call visualizers. Again, we took that terminology from DNN. I think it's familiar terminology, so it'll work well. The fourth aspect of structured content solution is you got your data structured, you have your content, you've figured out how to present it. And the fourth part is which content do we want to present. And I think this is where we did a lot of work, and I'm extremely proud of what our team accomplished here. And I can't wait to show that off, is the content selection and filtering. You could exactly choose how you want to slice and dice the data to show to the end world. So let's go ahead and jump over to a quick look into Live Visualizer. What we're going to do is actually go ahead and set up our first structure, and we'll go from there. So let's look at that. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with our Live Forms product. It's a form module for DNN. We just went ahead and integrated that into Live Visualizer, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel. What that basically means that you could create your forms in Live Visualizer with Live Forms integrated as a native experience. Full drag and drop capability, extremely easy to use, intuitive. What you see is what you get in terms of the form. Responsive with our last upgrade, it's multi-column, multi-page. You could build forms that are separate pages, so your users are not looking at this one long form. You could use conditional logic. If half of the form doesn't apply, if they choose an answer to one of the questions as no, then it disappears. So literally, we took about 4 to 5 years worth of our Live Forms work and just kind of packaged it right into Live Visualizer. So we're going to look at a demo really quick right on that. And it is fully featured. There's not a single feature of Live Forms that you're not going to get in your content structure. That means you get all the actions and extensibility. You could go off and actually charge somebody through PayPal to Stripe to any of the payment gateways within your structured content solution if you want to. And because it's extensible, there's nothing that stops you from adding your own actions. So if somebody submits a new content, you can go ahead and call off a legacy server or do whatever you need to do. So again, full package, Live Forms integrated. And one more thing I want to talk about before I head over to demo is security was very important to us. So when we build this centralized library of content, we want to make sure that permissions are first-class citizens, not something we look at a later stage of development. So you have granular permissions enforced at content level. That means if we're using this as a headless CMS, we have no presentation aspect to it, I still need to know who can view this content, add this content, update this content, delete this content, moderate this content, and all that done at a granular level. And somebody in the chat, I believe it was Clint, I'm not sure, but saying if we were following the DNN roles pattern, then that would be great. So yes, we are following the DNN roles pattern. You could take these granular permissions and kind of give them to any security role as you like. So having said that, let's go ahead and jump over to a quick demo, and let's create our first structure. So right here, I have a default instance of DNN 9.3, freshly installed just 2 days ago. So let me just log in. The only thing I've done to this installation is obviously install Live Forms, which is a dependency or required component of Live Visualizer, so you need to have Live Forms installed. I've installed Live Visualizer module, and then I've also installed our portal theme because we're going to do a few demos related to that. So that's all I have here so far. I also did, for this demo, I went ahead and created a role called Content Manager. You can call it anything you want. I also created a user, John Doe, for testing that we're going to use later today, and I just added John to the Content Manager role. So that's what I did to set this up. Let's head over to a Live Visualizer page. I just created a new page and I dropped an instance of Live Visualizer here. I'm going to go ahead and hit Manage. And here's my Live Visualizer view. This is a brand new module. There's nothing in it. No visualizers, no structures, nothing else. So let's go ahead and create our first structure. Those, I'm just looking at the chat. Did I install with NV QuickSight? No, I did not. I'm guilty of that. So structures, if you're familiar with liquid content, then think of these as content types. That's what structures is. So I'm going to do a quick demo here. I have some of our team members here, and let's say I want to build our company team or our Live Visualizer team web page to show these wonderful designers and developers and engineers who make these beautiful products for us. So I'm going to try and do that. What I'm going to do is say, I want to create a new content structure. I'm going to call it employee, that I want to manage or create employee-based content. So as I mentioned before, security is first and far most important thing. So the very first thing you see, and it's not an after side, is permissions. Who can see this data? So once you're going to create a structure, you're going to start creating employees, right? You're going to start adding employees, and that we call that content. Who can see this content? By default, admin gets everything, so that's a given. To make your life easier, so you don't have to keep adding, we give all users the ability to view data. But if you don't want to do that, you can take that off right away. We have this role called Content Manager that I will show you in just a sec. I had set up the module to say that I have a role called Content Manager, which is responsible for managing content. So when you set that role, this automatically gets added too. So anyone in that Content Manager role also has full content. So these are little things we did to kind of speed up your admin experience, so you don't have to go set these things up manually. You can always delete them if you don't need to, but I'm going to just keep it that way. Hit next. This is where I design my structure or create my form. As you can see, I have beautiful Liveforms infrastructure interface right here. I can drag and drop. So I'm going to go ahead and drop a heading, call it employee information. And what I need in this form is I'm going to grab full name. I will grab a drop down and another drop down. And Liveforms 5 introduced this neat assets field, which was done just for Live Visualizer. I'm going to go ahead and call this department. And here I'm just going to go back up to options and say we got management and we got development. And here we'll call this position. We'll give some positions here really quick. Let's see, we can get the CEO, the VP, we got a technical lead. All right, and this is Liveforms, right? So if you want to make required something, it's required. This is required. This is required. This is required. And I'm not going to do a demo on Liveforms because that's awesome in itself. But this right here, I'm going to, instead of calling it this, I'm going to call it picture. I want a picture of the person. I'm going to also allow them to upload one on the fly if they want to. And those who are not familiar with Liveforms, this is like truly drag and drop. So if you want to create multi-columns, it's that easy. So I'll just leave it at here. You could create multiple form, multiple pages, multi-language. I mean, like I said, this is a whole product in itself that is now built into Live Visualizer. So if you're not familiar with Liveforms, check that out. But that is native component of Live Visualizer. So there you go. I have my form. I don't have to hit save. I don't have to do anything. I'm done. I'm out of here. So I've created my first structure. Easy enough to create our first structure. Now you can see that we've created our first structure. It's called employee. And this is where we did things a little bit differently. We let you decide what do you think is the best title for that structure when we're displaying content. So I will say full name. Pete, that's funny. Pete just said next project is we get to do the entire UX of DNN 10. So that's really funny. And I get to choose a description. And you can always change this whenever you want. This is not big, then it's all dynamic. But for our purposes right now, I'm just going to go ahead and say that I want the position, the text value of that position to be description. So there we go. I've created a structure, and that's the first part of structured content editing. I also call it MVC, Model View Controller. So we got our model in place. We're ready to go ahead and add content. I'm cheating here, looking at I have my notes on the left, so I just want to make sure I covered everything here. All right, so we got our structure created. I can go ahead and start adding content now. If some of, whoops, what did I do there? Hold on. Oh yeah, all right. Bear with me for a sec. I'm trying to get some tools activated. There we go. So if you guys didn't notice, after adding that structure, I now have a content library tab visible where I can now go manage content too. One more thing before I actually go back to my PowerPoint. Remember when we were adding the structure, we saw that content manager role appear, and that is appearing because in the administration and permissions, I went ahead and specified that the content manager role is the content manager role that we had initially created. And that's why it automatically drops it. I mean, if you choose a different role, it will be using that as your content manager role. All right, so let's go ahead and go back to our PowerPoint. I believe Ryan has a question. Ryan, can you ask the question over the voice? It might be quicker.
Easier, sure. And this may be more of a question of live forms and the way that you can save things either locally or to a database table that you set up matching the form. But some other structured content type tools make it easy for people to be lazy and set up bad data structures. What's the scenario here? You've just set up your structure. What's the step in which you're making sure this goes into a normalized database table and structure?
So it does not go to a normalized table, and it cannot by definition because the data is dynamic and it can change. Your structure can change at any time. You can go ahead and create a structure with hundreds of different fields or just 2 fields. This is the same technology that we're using in Liveforms. This is just Liveforms, and we've tested it through hundreds and thousands of records that people use to put in it for performance tests and so forth. So if you're looking for a technical answer, the data is not normalized. We use a concept similar to, let's say, portal settings of DNN, where you have a concept of a field and a field value and so forth.
Yeah.
But
user profile, portal settings, several tables like that.
Sure, kind of. But what we do is we create some over the fly. We create some SQL queries that use the pivot statement basically to then present the statement, the data normalized. So we're not hitting the data. We're not, basically it's just one query that goes out. We're not, regardless of the amount of data we want to pull out. So it's not like we got a performance hit or anything. So we get the data, we use the built-in pivot functionality of SQL Server to then return a normalized view to us, which we then use in the front end.
All right.
But it's using actually the database. That's all.
Are you using EAV? Is that what you're saying? Like a true EAV kind of model, or no? Or
no, we're not using any specific pattern. Like I said, this was our native solution that we built for Liveforms using just simple pivot statements. It's been working great with thousands and thousands of records. So that's what we're doing. Having said that, if normalized data is what's important to you, then there's a second part of Live Visualizer that I initially talked about, which was App Builder. You could go ahead and leverage that, a SQL data source, and then connect to your own tables and pull data out and so forth. But that is not structured content editing, because the structured content editing allows you to go ahead and change the structure on the fly, add contents, do whatever you want without a single line of code and getting a technical team allowed, which we can do right now. For example, we just created an employee, and if the requirement comes, hey, I also need to know the sub-department, I just go back there, drag a drop-down sub-department, and I'm done. So that is not possible in a normalized data table kind of scenario. All right, so we've created our first structure, so I'm going to go ahead and go back to our slide here. Oh, that's sad. I have to go from the beginning. So next we're going to look at is our content library. Is now that we have a structure in place, how do we manage content? So we want to try to solve several problems here. One is we want to manage all our content in one place. Now let's say I create an employee, and we're showing that employee in our company team page, we're showing it on a human resource page, we're showing it like 50 different places on 50 different pages. I don't want to go edit every single page, every single module. I should be able to edit it in one place, and it should go ahead and get updated everywhere, which is create once, publish everywhere approach, or we call code. Now that is right now within DNN, but if you kind of see the bigger picture, as we talk about the headless CMS or a REST API that Live Visualizer comes with, that literally means that if you update in one place, then your mobile apps and your all connected devices and everything else gets updated automatically too, just by updating it in one place. And we're going to do a quick demo at the end of that too. While and when you're adding content, I want to make sure it's easy for you to view your content, sort it, filter it, so you can get to what you want if you're trying to edit something. And then we also have this designated content manager role that I showed that I'm going to do a quick demo on. So let's look at this really quick. So now if I want to add content, I'm going to go to Content Library. And I see this Add New Content on the top. I can just go ahead and yes, Justin, all the data is in the database, so it's not getting shipped off to a cloud or somewhere else. It's native DNN tables, live form structure. I'm just going to go ahead and hit, I want to create a new employee. There's my beautiful live forms. To create that employee, so I'm Mandeep Singh. For department, I'll say I'm in management, and I'm a CEO. So security is super important to all of our products. Live forms kind of bakes you into the module instance, so you don't get to see anything outside unless I go and specifically choose the folder I want to allow access to, the default folder of your file system. It does support DNN folder read-write permissions, so all that beautiful stuff. Like I said, this is 5-6 years worth of effort just comes right back into Live Visualizer, and this is all live forms, so I'm not going to do anything different here. So since I have nothing in that folder, I'm just going to go ahead and upload an image. We did decide to allow uploads. I'll just choose my image right there and hit submit. So there's our content. So remember when we set up the structure, I chose how do I want to show content. This is the title field, which I said use full name, and this is the position. So when I'm looking at my content, I'm seeing it what is meaningful to me rather than being pared down with a structure that always has a title field and always has a description field. You could create your structure to whatever you want and then let us know what you want to see as a title and description. So that's pretty neat. So I'm going to go ahead and create a couple more. Just going to do one more actually here, and then management and VP, and do another upload here. All right. So I have my content here, and what I want to talk about is, let's say after a month of use, you probably got, depending on your usage, hundreds of thousands of lines of code right here in this library, of content. So we got a couple things. You can sort it, look at the data, and this is all Ajax, right? So there's no page refreshes. As I change things, the data changes on the fly. So I can sort it. Let's say I wanted to edit my position, and I wanted to find myself. To do that, I have to go look for myself, right? So I could go ahead and do that. Obviously, there's search, so that's why that title was important too. But I could just search for content, and it brings it right back in. But once you got 1 million rows of content, then you got to be able to filter it further down. So then I can say, hey, I'm only looking for employees. I'm not interested in any other content. There's workflow and content approval concept built in to Live Visualizer and Live Forms. So I'm going to skip that for today, but that's what these statuses are. For example, if it's pending or if it's approved and so forth. But you could also look at a subset. Hey, I only want to look at content that was created last week. I was told to update everything that was done by Ashley yesterday. I want to find what she did. So we're going to go ahead and find everything from a specific date. And we're missing a filter here, which we're going to add prior to release, and that is the author, person who created the content. And I want to see everything that Ashley did yesterday. So we have this ability for content managers to come in here and go ahead and create, edit, manage content, that is add, edit, delete, and so forth. Once you choose a specific structure type and set your filters, you can export that content. There you go. You got your CSV file right there with all the data. It also comes with metadata, like when the content was created and the IP address that was used to submit and so forth. And that's the structure. And this is the reason there's no way in the world we could have done this with a normalized table, right? This is only possible if we're using a dynamic approach. If and when you enable moderation, which is through workflow content, then you also get the ability to moderate content here. That is already pre-built in through live forms. So let's move on. I've created a structure. I've created an employee structure. I've created 2 employees. I got Mandeep Singh and Gagandeep Singh. And we've seen how to go ahead and do that through a central content library. What I want to do is really quick is log out and log back in as John Doe. Is remember the test user I had created, which I added to the content management role. And I'm going to go right here to Live Visualizer, click Manage. Notice that John Doe only has access to content library and nothing else, right? So I just wanted to highlight that concept that even though it looks like one module, content library is completely separate and segregated from everything else. Visualizers are completely separated and segregated from else, and structures are completely separated and segregated from everything else. And you could have different people who are responsible for actually creating the visualizers, or actually creating the structures, or actually creating the content, or you could give them access to do everything. All right, let's go back in, log in here. Then we're going to actually go ahead and create our first visualizer. And so I have a question from Pete. How well does this work with large amounts of data? Any performance lags as data counts gets huge? So everything that you see on that screen is using pagination. You could put 1 million records in that content library. You won't see a difference in performance because at time we're only bringing 50 or 100 records based on the filters that you've set up. So no performance issues. And we've done a lot of tweaking and testing with that because we had clients who were using live forms with lots of data. We actually have a client who uses our live helpdesk product, has over 5 million tickets. So we're kind of used to seeing that stuff. Having said that, by all means, this is a beta version, and we may run into performance, but I am absolutely 100% confident that if we do, there's nothing that we cannot solve because we've done that with our other modules in the same architecture and technology. So I'm very confident that we can do that. All right, let's look at visualizers. This is the third aspect of our structured content solution. What we now want to do is we got our content, we want to display it. So when we look at visualizers, there's 3 things we want to cover. First is obviously templates, and we make our life easy with a concept called auto-generate templates. Then we want to look at something called module instance specific options or settings. And then obviously we have autocomplete template helpers or kind of IntelliSense. So let's go ahead and do a quick demo on this one. If I go to my visualizers tab, I have no visualizers. Remember, we've only created an employee structure so far, and we've added 2 employees to it that are visible right here. I'm going to go to visualizers and hit new visualizer. I'm creating a new visualizer. Let's say on this particular page, I wanted to show our team. So I'm going to give it a name called our team. The data source by default is always structured data, which is the native concept. So we leave it as it. I'm going to choose a structure. I'm going to say I want to use employee structure here. And we can give it a description and icon, but I'm just going to leave it as it. Hit update. Once I hit update, what I see is my templates. So there's 3 templates out of the box right now. And with future app building concept, we're going to introduce the ability to keep creating as many as you like. You got a master template, which is the initial view. Then you got a detailed template if somebody clicks on a particular item to show something. and then we got a pagination template. So the pagination links that appear at the bottom are also templatized, and that you can use from here. So there's our templates right there. So let's go ahead and give this a shot. What I'm going to simply do is so far I've only said I wanted to create our team, and I've said use employee. I'm going to now say auto-generate a table view, and I'm going to hit OK, and I'm going to update. And there's my first visualizer right there, our team. It is active. That means it's now being visible outside on the page. I'm going to go ahead and hit return. And there's our table. Automatically created with all the data, the picture right there in the link. If I click on it, it opens up. Metadata there. So let's kind of slow down here and kind of show you some of the things that autocomplete did for us. Obviously, it created a table, and if there's enough data, it'll create the pagination, and all the data is coming through paginated queries. So for performance is in place. All the stuff is cached. Performance is in place. So if you refresh the pages, we're not hitting the server again. This stuff is cached at query level and so forth. Inline editing, well, let's not call it inline editing because that's on roadmap, but quick editing. If I wanted to change Gagandeep, I hit right there. There's all his data. I can change the picture, I can change the information, change his position, hit submit, it will be done. I want to add an employee, I'll do that from here. So hit add, and now I'll add Manish Kumar. I was holding off to show this demo. And Dwalkman, I'm going to call him, he's the technical lead. And add another picture here. And hit submit. And so one of the things we're still working on that is not there for final release is you see the page refresh here to show. That's going to go away. So we're going to take that refresh out as well. As soon as you close the window, your data will be right there without a page refresh. So there we go. I mean, I've kind of completed the content structure editing, but there's far more to this demo. I've only touched three things: create the structure, create the content, and create a template to show the content. So there's my table template. I'm going to go back into the visualizer and edit it right here. And go to our editors, and in templates, I'm going to edit the master template. And you can see by clicking on that auto generate, it created this template for me. It is very clean and very semantic. So if you notice, it says if the employee can add. In other words, the person who's logged in has the permission to add an employee. Let's show this. And what we're showing is a button which I added called add. On click model employee.add. Now this was all auto-generated for you. That does not mean that you can go ahead and customize it to whatever you want. We'll do that in a second too. But then basically it created a table div for us, created a table, it created the headers for us. It's doing a for each on the content, adding the content, and the bottom, and the last one is giving us those links to edit and delete content if we have permission, obviously. And the permissions are enforced at both the front end and back end, so it's not like if somebody can figure out a link, they'll be able to have a go day. So that's that right there. What I'm going to do really quick is go back.
Quick question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have the ability to open that in full page view or something, or?
Not yet. Not yet. It's going to come, and I'll talk about the IntelliSense momentarily here too. But like I said, we're trying to polish like 90% there. We still have a few things we want to do before we release, and one of those is to kind of make that templating experience more nicer. Our initial and first focus was that you really don't even need to worry about code and templates. So that's what we've accomplished first. I'm going to do another demo. Let's say I didn't want a table. I want a list view. So I'm going to say, hey, auto-generate me a list view. And I'm going to hit update. And what I'm going to see now is a list view. And here's the interesting thing. The auto-generator was smart enough to figure out that, hey, there's an asset field there, and there must be a picture, so let's use it. So they dropped a picture in there for us, too, to auto-complete that. Because when we set up the structure, we let the structure designer delegate which fields to use as title and description, we brought that in for you automatically, just to kind of help you set things up. But that doesn't mean that you need to keep it that way. We can go back to our template now, and we got everything we need to in terms of data. Now we just add everything else. There's the full name coming from. There's the position. That right there is to edit and delete. That right there is to add. Our goal was to use this as semantic as possible. So, question from Clint is this using Bootstrap? It is using Bootstrap, but it does not require that you have a theme that's using Bootstrap or something along those lines. The auto-generated templates are designed to work out of the box on any theme. I'm going to go ahead and actually ask Gagan here to chime in. He's our VP, and he's responsible for strategic decisions on user experience. Gagan, are we using Bootstrap, or are we just using the grid component of Bootstrap here?
We are not using Bootstrap here.
We are?
We are not.
We're not. So Gagan says we're not using Bootstrap. That means we're not using heavily dependent Bootstrap here just to create our grids and columns. Instead, we wrote our own very compact minimal CSS to make sure that the auto-generate still works in every theme and possible. Having said that, if you're using a theme that uses Bootstrap, there's nothing that stops you from using Bootstrap code here. So that's a win-win situation on both ends. Because those who are not using Bootstrap, we don't want to preload a framework that is significant in size if that's all we're doing here. All right, let me go ahead and continue. I'm going to quickly go ahead and change this to card view. There's another view there. And go ahead and take a look at that. Let's see what that does. So it kind of creates a card view for me. So I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate the next important capability. So we really have to understand we have a structure, we got content, we got 2 employees there. All of these are disconnected. There's absolutely no dependency anywhere. Then we got a visualizer here, which is then showing us those data. But it is very likely that the same data I want to display differently on one page versus another page. For example, I could be showing some FAQs on one page that are styled differently, but on another page they're styled differently. Yet they're using the same visualizer. I'm not going to create new visualizers for each iteration of styling. So we have this concept of what we call as settings. I'm going to go ahead and give you a quick demo. I'm going to click New Setting Structure. So remember, this structure that I'm now creating lives within this visualizer. This is the first time we're doing something that is now pared down to visualizer. It's not segregated. I'm going to go ahead and call this Options. You can call it whatever you want. Again, you get your beautiful live form, so you can build your settings any way you like. Full functionality. Do whatever you want to do with it. I'm going to go ahead and say that for this particular view, I have, let's do a radio button. Green, red, blue. I want to give it a background color. And I'm just doing this is very primitive, I'm just doing this as an example. And because you have live forms, I can call it required, I can make sure that green is by default selected and so forth. Let's close this, hit update. So now what happens is, for this particular visualizer instance that I'm making active on this particular page, I have its own set of settings. And I'm calling it green. I could have added another instance of Visual module to another page, make our team active, and choose blue color. So let's go ahead and implement this. I'm going to go ahead and edit this because we haven't used this option structure anywhere. As you can see, it's indicating that there's also this option structure is now associated with it. So I'm going to go to our master template, and I see that we have this big class up here and everything's wrapped to it. So technically, I can just go ahead and do style equals background and give it a color here, and I want to make that dynamic. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into the next part, in which is our auto helpers or kind of intelligence. We can do control space for our structures and settings, and we can do shift space for our fields. That's the more technical version of it. But if I do control space, there's my model. I see everything that I can use in this template. All the functions I have, and we're trying to use some icons here to kind of make it easier what's what. You can see everything here is about employee, but what I'm after is that options, and it's right there, model.options. Because I created that option, so I'm going to use that. And now if I do shift space, it's going to figure out that I'm talking about submissions, and it's bringing all the submissions automatically in for, it's going to figure out I'm talking about options, and it's going to show me everything that's available to me in that options. And background color was one of the things we just added, so I'm going to use that. This right here, basically, if I plug in here, will do the job. This is a demo on the fly. Let's give it a shot. Let's see if it works or not.
So does the IntelliSense not work in the context of the style tag, or?
Oh, you're saying if I would have used it here?
Yeah.
Yeah, it should. Nope, seems like it does not work.
Okay, there's your person.
Yep, great. Again, that's something we can take back and improve on, because I'd like to see that working as well. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and hit update, and we'll go back, and hopefully I see a bunch of green, and I do. If now I want to go back and make this something else, I just go right here, call it red, submit, out. Hopefully it should be red. So what I did here is demonstrated that you could have your own options that is specific to that module instance. Remember, that option is not specific to the visualizer. Even though we created the structure that was specific to the visualizer, but I could have multiple modules, each showing a different color. Pretty neat. I've demonstrated the autocomplete template helpers too, so it looks like that's done as well. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of show you really quick that when you're creating obviously your own templates, you need to be able to have scripts. You can hit new script and then link any scripts you want, as many as you want. You can also online your scripting inline here, as many as you want. Same thing with style sheets. By default, we put our live visualizer style sheet here. This is how autocomplete was working, because it was using those classes that are coming from here. You don't need it. You can get rid of it. You can link as many style sheets as you want and also do your inlining. So that's visualizer in a nutshell. Let's head back to our PowerPoint so I stay on course. All right, so remember we talked about 4 different things that's going to make structured content editing for us. So far we've covered the first 3. We've created an employee structure. We've added 3 employees, 2 through the content library, 1 through the front end. We've now created a visualizer using auto-generated code, and now I'm going to look at content selection and filtering, and this is by far my favorite aspect of this module, and kudos to our team for making this happen. So I don't know if anyone noticed or realized I didn't specify yet which content to show in this module. By default, it's showing all the employees that are there. I've not had a chance to tell which employees I want to show, or how do I want to show data. I'm going to go ahead and click on this icon right here. It's called content filter. So this is where I figure out what I want to show. Now, I've looked at liquid content screenshots, and I don't know what functionality they have, they don't have. I looked at Too Sexy, and even at DNN Summit, I was attending a somebody session, and you had to create funnels, and you had these lines of graphs going on, and there's something inside me tells me that's not how software should work. So this is our take on it. I'm going to try and spend a few minutes on it so we get everything covered here. By default, it's display all content. So you're going to get every employee out there. It's going to be paginated for you. It's going to be performance oriented and all that stuff. But I want to say, hey, let's just limit it to the 10 records. I don't want to show more than 10. As you're doing this, the view below is going to update in real time so you know what you're working with. For example, if I do 2, you see I just dropped 1 from there. I can decide how I want to show. Updated on most recent or first in, first out. So if you can see, these are switching just to show how I'm doing my sorting. Statuses, again, is the workflow and approval concept. I'm just going to skip this for this demo. Let's go back here. I can say, basically, I only want to say last 5 employees that were added to the system. So that's pretty cool. I can also go and say, hey, I want to choose my specific content. I only want to show this guy and this guy. So now you choose what content you want to show. Now, if you go ahead and do that, by the way, we dog food everything we do, right? So my team gave me this demo 2 weeks ago, and it said, hey, look what we did, and I'm proud of it. I'm like, I am too, but I'm wondering if I have an FAQ section on my site, and I'm selling a product, and I get to select exactly which FAQs to list, then you better give me drag and drop sorting so I can figure out in which order to list.
Preach it, brother. Preach
I like that.
So not only you can choose exactly specific items that you want to show, you can figure out, you can specify which order you want to show to. All right, let's go back to all content. We looked at sorting. So let's look at this. You're not limited to date and time. You got every single field in your structure that you can sort on. Show that data sorted by the full name, the position, the department, whatever you want. By author name, this is going to change to author for better context than username. And you can choose ascending and descending. So you got full power in sorting, how you want to show the data. You can show all the data, just limit it to 5 data. And then here's another my favorite. We're showing data across all the dates, right? How about I only want to show 5 records that were last added in last 5 days. So let's go to last and change that to 5 days. Now that's dynamic. We're always showing what happened in the last 5 days, or what just happened today, or what happened in the last 10 days. And I can show everything that happened, or I can show only limit to a certain number of records to show what happened. So one of the hallmarks for me is when my team brings something to me, and when I use it, and it's almost too easy to use. And I feel like there's not much here. And then they remind me it took us only 9 months to get this far. So I call that as success. Because the amount of complexity that happens behind the scene is phenomenal to do what we're doing. But as an end user, I don't care. It needs to be this simple. Now I can always go ahead and do a date range. I want to see between certain dates. We got questions coming in by Dustin, can we filter by attributes? And David's asking multi-filter. Yes, I always save the best for later.
I knew there was a button.
So on the right, we got our filter icon. Now you can hit that. And if you're familiar with live forms, you can build your own logic here. I only want to see management. And look, the data filter below showing me management. And I only want to see in management, or for example, in management, I only want to see the CEO. Hey, that didn't work. Bug. No, it's not a bug because the condition says match any of these rules. If I go and say match all of these rules, there we go. So you've literally built your own and or condition here without giving, I don't want to say the word, without giving a dang about how does it work in the background. I mean, an end user doesn't care what and is. or what OR is. They understand simple English. If all of these conditions matches, if all of these rules match, or if any of these rules match, you can go ahead and build this out to your heart desire. There's no limit to the amount of conditions. And again, I'm going to go back to the original, are we using normalized tables? No way, because it's not possible to do what we're doing with this, with normalized tables. So this is our way of creating a pipeline of data, or however you want to call it, to figure out what you want to show to your end user. Keep this piece of puzzle in mind, because when I'm going to get to that headless CMS demo towards the end of this presentation, the REST API, this is going to become extremely important. So one last thing that we're still missing here, as I said earlier, is the ability to filter on the author. So that's pending. We're going to add it prior to release to do that as well. Any questions on this before I move on to our next presentation?
API.
You know, maybe we need a round of applause from the group, a collective round of applause for the best filter that I've ever seen.
I'm gonna join in that clapping because I think my team deserves this.
Well done.
It's people like Manish, Gagan, Narendra, and Shees, and their hard work that pays off. I mean, I'm the one who simply tells them, hey, this is not good enough. Take it back to development, and they just look at me and they're like, this guy's crazy. The guy Narendra who's smiling, he's been asking me to release this for past 2 months, and I'm telling him, no, it's not ready yet.
you guys need to definitely look at the chat. In the chat, you've got accolades from the minute that he mentioned the start of the filtering, but then the multi-filter there, everybody went crazy. So this is, you know, excellent simplicity and complexity all at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, I cannot think of any particular scenario, and I will give a demo of how to slice and dice your content that cannot be solved, what we've done. And I'm sure we'll find new ones that are not possible, and we're loving. I mean, we're more than happy to see that, because that always there's room for improvement and allow the product to get better. But I think that this does 95% of use cases, I would say, out there in terms of slicing and dicing your content and how you want to show it. All right, so let's move on. I've done a crude demo here, just created one visualizer. I had already set up another DNN site and kind of did some visualizers there for sake of time, so I don't have to do that here. So there's my another DNN site. I'm gonna refresh, make sure I'm still logged in, and I'm not. So let's log in really quick here. And when I was looking at liquid content, so we did look at liquid content because there was a lot of buzz around liquid content for past 2 years, and one of the pain things about liquid content was that data is stored in Azure and cloud, and you know, we have a lot of Evoke customers and they're not happy about it. By the way, Live Visualizer started by one of our clients reaching out for custom development, and the idea started about a year ago or a year and a half ago, and it has developed into what we're doing today. So where I'm heading with this is, when I was looking at liquid content screenshots on DNN, they had this documentation and example how to create a recipe visualizer. So I wanted to kind of see if our product can do something similar last night, so I just went ahead and kind of created something. So here's my visualizer. I called it recipes. As you can see, you can give it your own icons. I'm going to edit this really quick. There's my visualizer. It's using a structure called recipe templates. There's no module specific settings. Let me just show you really quick the structure. It's a recipe structure here. That's what it looks like. As for the name, the servings, the description, the time it takes, ingredients, steps, pictures. And then I got a bunch of these checkbox lists. You know, tell me individual ingredients, or if it's low carb and stuff, or the meal type. I got a drop down for cuisine as well. So that's the structure right there. Now you can probably appreciate the power, because you can literally go full. You know, there's nothing stopping you on how you want to kind of create that structure. In the content library, I added a. All right, let's filter this for easy recipe. So I added 2 different recipes already, hummus and guacamole. And what I did here is I actually took the liberty to to not use an auto-generated template. Well, actually, the master template is auto-generated, but I took the time to actually create my detail template. As you can see, it's pretty simple, not a whole lot of code. What I really did, and that's the reason we got Porto in here, is I copied a Porto shortcode, pasted in here, and just added my model in where it needed to. So let's go ahead and look at a demo of what this does. Let me just make sure this is active outside. I'm going to go out here, and there we go. That's my recipes. The front view is auto-generated. That's the list view. As you can see, the pictures automatically comes in. Now, the reason I'm bringing this demo in is because I want to show something else. Is now I can actually click on a link, which I could have done before too, but I wanted to save it for here. Notice it has its unique URL. So we've integrated Live Visualizer with another product, our library called URL Library. You get full SEO, full control over each content item in terms of its URLs, title, meta description. You can go ahead and change the URL. It will automatically do the 301 redirects. It will remember the history, all that good stuff built in. This is the detail page. Again, I use the Porto shortcode. I'm seeing a nice image. I see my my recipe there. I'm going to hit back here. And let's go back and see where do we do SEO. So in our content library, when I'm looking at recipe, I have this nice SEO button. I can specify the title, the description, and the slug. Slug is our URL. We have the ability to see the history. This one only had hummus. We know that's a default selected. Now this is the same URL library that you're used to seeing in our Live Exchange, Live Forums, Live any other live product. All our products are integrated. They work together. So full SEO support right there. Let's see, what else do I want to talk about here before we move on? All right, so let's go back to the filtering really quick, since that's my favorite part. I'm going to go ahead and bring this site up in a view just for a moment, because while I was building this demo, I needed something to look to. So I went to the site called allrecipes.com. I just Googled recipes, and this is the first hit on Google. So I'm assuming it's a pretty popular site. And I was looking at the site, and I was thinking to myself, can Live Visualizer do everything that's on the site? And surprisingly, the answer came back as a pretty close yes, almost 95%. There's one thing that I couldn't see it do, which we're going to make sure we'll do prior to end of our release. Yeah, I don't know how to spell it. All right, let's look at a recipe. We got a recipe, and wait, where did that thing go? Hold on. All right, there we go. So if you see this, the site here has categories, and they're slicing and dicing it in any way possible. I mean, you can look for recipes by meal type, by individual ingredients, by diet and health, by types, by occasions, by seasons, by cuisines. If you were to build a module to do all that, that's a lot of category management, lot of stuff happening. That's where structured content really shines. All right, so what does that mean? In my filtering, I could then simply say, let's say I created a page, dropped the module, and I want to show all the recipes that have chicken in it. So I can simply go to filter, say ingredient, and this is where it's missing. This is live forms. This is a checkbox list. It's missing the option called contains. We're going to choose and add the word here called contains. You get to choose chicken from the list, and you're now showing all the recipes that have chicken. So you're basically now doing filtering at the individual structured content level. That's what makes this filtering so beautiful. For example, right now, just to demonstrate, I could simply do cuisine, is equal to Chinese, and I got nothing, Mexican would probably bring guacamole, and then Mediterranean would probably bring hummus. But I could have gone and say, I want to look at all the recipes that are Mediterranean, that uses chicken, and that are only savored in Christmas. That filtering allows me to do that. And build a site like allrecipes.com just with Live Visualizer. All right, enough of me talking. What I'm going to do here is allow my team members to kind of come in and show some of the stuff as well. I'm going to make sure I'm here. So where are we going with this? As you just saw, that I copied a short code from Portal and put it in here to create that detailed page. So we want to take this time to announce now that Portal 6 will include visualizers out of the box. That means you no longer need to fiddle with shortcodes. That means if you want tabs, you go to Live Visualizer, hit tab, search tabs, select, and you're done. Not a single line of code anywhere that you need to worry about, manage, maintain, and so forth. So to present this, I'm going to ask our VP of the company, Gagan, to kind of take over. I'm going to give him control. He's going to quickly do a demo on this. I'm going to go ahead and get him access here to this page. All right, you should have control, Gagan.
Yes, I have. We can search the tab visualizer from here.
And that's useful if you got 400 or 500 visualizers. Before you do that, Gagan, can I really quick look at the content library? I want to make sure I had deleted my test data. There it is. So let me get rid of that.
Okay.
So you could do your own demo. All right, go ahead.
So basically, we can.
So basically, Gagan's just setting up tabs as the active visualizer to show outside. Thing is that having some difficulties in controlling the mouse. Now, because there is no data, we don't see anything. The test data there was, I deleted. So he's just going to do a demo of Quick Add.
I will add some tab content here.
Let me give you the dummy content. Hold on.
Oh.
Make your life easier. There you go. Look, I can drag it up for you if you want. Hold on. There you go.
Next week, woohoo!
Let me do this. I see you're struggling with the mouse, so let me go ahead and paste this for you. So so that's going to bring us our first tab in, and we're going to create one more. And I've actually already demonstrated that. I think what Gagan's going to demonstrate is that you could create your tab from the front end. So let's say if you're using the traditional approach where everybody has access to the module and they have the permissions to edit, then they can go ahead and do it through here. They can add, edit, delete right from the front end of it. And the other way is the central content library where your content manager has no clue. Let me get this for you. Hold on. Of where and how the data is being used. But they simply go ahead and add a data, and it shows up where it needs to show up. So there's tabs, and these tabs are run by Portal shortcodes. I think what we want to see again is we have
change these settings also there.
Yeah, hold on before you do that. I want to kind of bring our Portal theme in and show that in our tab shortcodes we got, left tabs and right tabs and bottom tabs and justified tabs and vertical tabs, center tabs, different colors of tabs, simple tabs, and this is what we're probably seeing in icon tabs. as you can see, there's hundreds and hundreds, I mean not hundreds, but there's over a dozen iterations, and each has different shortcode. Now, all that disappears with Live Visualizer. I'll let you go and present that. It becomes extremely simple with the concept of module instance settings that we introduced that I was talking about earlier.
I cannot.
How about this, Gagan? Why don't you just talk and let me drive?
Okay.
So go ahead.
Where's this tab? Okay, tab.
Okay.
I'm unable to click.
I'm gonna take the mouse away from you. I think it's not working. So let me go ahead and take that away from you, and you just talk and let me drive. So there's the settings, and as you can see that it was currently set up to simple, and obviously these are prototype testing. That's not what they're going to be called. If I change this to default, you get your positions, right? Now, basically, you could choose left, right, whatever you want, and just change it from here, and you get your colors, which are driven through your style switcher through a theme, so you can change different colors through here. Do you want to do a demo? Do you want to do, which one do you want to do, Gagan?
We can do a bottom left.
Okay, we'll do bottom left. We'll change this. And then we'll head out, and basically what should happen is now we're looking at bottom left tabs, and there they are. So again, one visualizer, you have no need to create multiple iterations for different ones. The settings allows us to beautifully handle this. I actually like the justified top a lot, so I'm going to go ahead and use that and do that. So there we go, nice and clean. And again, you get your filtering to it. So obviously, you probably don't want to say we call this sectional content, which means, which basically means that you have content and you have a heading on top of it right there. We have a heading, and you're asking for content envelope. So that really means that, same content, that same thing that we were showing in tabs, we can simply just show in an accordion. So I'm going to go right here and just say, let's show this in accordion, and hit return, and there we go. We get accordion. They're reusing the same structure because that's what it is. It's just a heading and content. We could do that same thing for any other visualizer that uses the same structure type. Gagan, did you want to add anything else?
I think it's over.
Okay, all right. So this is what we're foreseeing with Portal 6. That majority of these that are content or data driven will come as prepackaged visualizers. So if you want to create pricing tables, you don't have to fiddle with code. You just type in pricing tables and hit add, and then you'll get to choose a product name and the options and so forth, and that's it. So that's our vision with it. All right, let's go back to our PowerPoint. So now I'm going to go and cover so we're done with structured content editing. I want to look at the concept of app builder with data sources, and then we're going to spend about 5 minutes on headless CMS as well. But I want to go ahead and ask Manish to come in to kind of do a quick demo on these data sources. So far, we've done everything that is structured content, but let's look at what other options do we have. So let me try the control again. Let's see if it works better for Manish. Okay, you should have.
Right.
Okay. The data source is not limited to only structured data. We can have two different options also, like live form and SQL. So we have a booking live form created.
So
Earlier
basically you're saying we have an existing live forms module.
Yeah. And to see its submission, we have to move into the manage button. But now we have the option to show the submissions by the way we want to show them.
Manish, is the mouse working for you, or do you want me to drive for you?
I don't think the mouse is working.
Okay, let me drive. You just do the talking. So he's basically saying that this is live forms module, and normally to see the submissions you have to go in backend and see the submissions here. And in Live Visualizer, we basically have...
You can create one submission.
Create a submission? Okay. So we'll just test at user.com. We'll give it a date, number, and submit. So we've created a submission. Go back to Live Visualizer. Do you want me to create a new one?
No. Yeah, you have to create a new visualizer.
Okay. So, are you trying to show the bookings?
Yeah.
What are we doing next?
You have to choose live form instance in the data source. We have 3 different options there. Yeah.
Okay, so basically we're now saying that we want to get the data from this instance of live forms.
Yeah.
Okay, and we can still do the auto generate on that and hit update. Just make sure it is selected. Go back here. And now that data is coming from live form submissions, correct?
You can edit the template to show what data you want to show to the public.
Right. So basically, we've just changed the data source. Instead of getting a data from our content library, we're getting from a single instance of live forms module. But everything else remains the same. You still have the same templating support and everything else. So let's go ahead and continue this. Did you want to do a SQL query demo?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Just create a new visualizer.
All right. What do you want me to call it?
DNN pages. We can show the DNN pages. I think same visualizer is already created.
Something rough. Yeah.
Oh, you already know.
So we're doing SQL query as a data source. I'm going to try and configure this. We're just showing the DNN tabs here. So we'll just select all from tabs.
Select asterisk from tabs.
Okay. We'll just leave it simple, but basically, yeah, let's just leave it there and hit update. I don't think I auto-generated, did I?
I think you have not auto-generated.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. All right. So what this is going to do is hopefully bringing all the tabs. So we didn't see that, and that's because I didn't switch my active visualizer. It's still showing bookings. Let's show the pages. And there's all the pages, and I can see all the, since I did select all, this basically dumped all the data out here for me, created a table for me.
The data can be paged query also.
Okay, so let's look at that. That's more interesting. So basically right now, it dumped all the data, which is not great if you got 1 million rows. So you can say use pagination, and then I have some sample queries here that I'm going to try and paste. So what we're doing now is we're doing SQL pagination. Go ahead.
And I'm using some pre-built tokens here.
Right, like the start record and the end record, right? We also have the page size and page number and start record and end record. So this allows us to write paginated queries, and we also need a query to get the count. So now it uses pagination. Let's go ahead and see if that works.
You have to auto-generate again.
Okay, so there's my pagination. Now it's only bringing 10 at a time, and that is through SQL pagination. When I click next, it does the SQL query again, brings the results back through an AJAX call, no refresh, nothing. So that's awesome. So again, this is our attempt to get into the app building concept of Live Visualizer. Very little work has been done, but we still kind of took care of the basics, like you can do pagination and so forth. I think there are more interesting stuff here, I think.
We can create dynamic parameters also here.
Yes, that's where I was trying to go, because again, this was done as a sponsored development for a client. Now, obviously, you got a simple query, but what about parameters? What if I want to have a query that asks, for example, how many to show? I don't know. Filters, where clauses, all that good stuff. So you can go to parameters. Guess what? You get your live forms right back in. Create your own form any way you like it. So you can ask for whatever you want. The user will fill it out. You can use those as a parameters to pass down to your SQL query. And so just to kind of demonstrate what I'm talking about, we won't do a full demo, but let's say you want somebody to run a report from a certain date to a certain date. So you can simply go ahead and create these, close this. Now if you go back to your
No.
Oh, sorry, don't close this. It was right here. Just switch back to configuration. Now in your tokens, you see your from and to. Right? So I could simply say where, let's say if I had a created on date is greater than or between, basically, just add this token right here, from and to. So that's what it is. And I'm not going to save this, but I do want to show that what happens if you create parameters is on the front end, you will now see a form where the user can fill in those dates, hit submit, and filter the data. So that's great. I think in the interest of time, we're going to keep this short and just do a quick another demo here. Yes, David, I'm not forgetting about API. I just need 5 minutes on that one, so I'll cover that in a sec. But I do want to show, there was one more demo you want to do, Manish. Which one was that?
Yeah, DN pages Ignite Grid. You have already created that visualization.
Okay, so we're just going to show another function of what SQL query can do. You have the option to dump the data that you get in JSON. You could do yes there. And just want to show the power of templates. Here in our templates, it's extremely simple. We just got a div and a table. But what we did is we used the Infragistics components, and they have something called IG Grid or Ignite Grid. And we loaded their JS, their style sheet, and some script here to create the table and the grid. And what we get is, how do I go out? Stuck. Okay. What we get here is the same tabs we were looking at earlier now are shown in Ignite Grid, which means I get full control over filters, column choosers, ability to relocate, do inline filtering, sorting. And this is just to demonstrate the power of templating, that you could literally go ahead and do whatever you want, because you're not coupled anywhere. Data is not coupled with presentation. So full flow. I mean, there's some kudos there from in the chat section, Manish, for you on this one. So again, this was done for a custom client because they wanted a custom reporting solution. So that's how this got started. But this is where we're going. So all right, Manish, did you want to do add anything else?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Let's wrap this up. There's one more thing I want to talk about, and then I promise we're going to be done here. Is I mentioned another thing we want to solve with headless CMS, with live visualizers like headless CMS or create once, publish everywhere concept. So imagine this scenario. I mean, you get a client who comes to you, hey, say, create me a mobile device, mobile application. I want to show something on it, right? So if you install Live Visualizer on your DNN side, you basically took that project and accomplished 90% of it. Because you simply go to structures, create the content structure you want, give them access to content library using a security role. So they come in, create the content as and when they like, create a visualizer. Let's say in our case we were working with recipes, so let's just look at it. Go to the content filter. You decide what content to show and how to show it. And just for purpose of this demo, I got this API link here, and this is just for demo. It's not going to stay there. This API link is the REST API, which now takes that content, the way you sliced it, diced it, how you want it to be shown, whether it's top 5, all the content, whatever it is. This is also paginated, so you cannot dump a million records. Basically, what we're doing is saying that the page size is 10, and we're on page 1 here if you have multiple data. But what this is doing is dumping all the data out that you can now go ahead and leverage in your mobile app. So I'm seeing questions already by David. Security. So right now it is just enforcing DNN permissions. So JWT is not there. It will come in. The token concept will come in for it to become useful. But this is where you're heading. We wanted to kind of demonstrate this to you. But right now I'm logged in. That's why I get to see the data. Actually, let me take that back. When we created this structure of recipe, and we can get to permissions right here, or designer right here if you after you're done creating it. I had set it up that all users can view the data. So even if you hit the API as anonymous, you will see that data. But if I take that away, Manish, do you think we can do a demo? It won't fail? Because I didn't test this.
It will work.
All right, let's give it a shot. I'm going to refresh this, and I should not see the data. I do. Is it cached?
You're logged in as admin, so. Yeah.
That's right. I'm logged in as admin. Thank you. Thank you. Let's try another browser window and hit here. Hey, works.
Yay!
So authorization has been denied. Basically, those permissions at content level are being enforced. Now, let's just make sure it really works. I hit view back here. I'm going to go back and do a refresh. And it doesn't work. Maybe it's browser crash. Let's try again. Nope. I still say there's a bug there. It's not serving for anonymous users. It should, because we have all users set here.
So theoretically, though, if you were authenticating through JWT with a user being logged into DNN, theoretically, it would follow this permission. So if that user is in a role that has permissions to get that, they should be able to do that, right?
Correct. So DNN permissions are already enforced. We just have to put the JWT token part in where they automatically log into the token. That's all.
Excellent.
DNN permissions are already in place and being enforced. Obviously, this is the first one instance in this demo which didn't work, and I'm proud of that. I was expecting quite more than that, but this is the reason why it's still in beta, and we haven't even made beta available to the community. But these are the things we want to solve it's very dynamic. Things change on a daily and weekly basis. So we want to give the beta out once it's much closer to release, which I believe we are now. So there you go. The implication of this is, for me, let's say you had a client, let's say National Tsunami Center or somebody reach out, hey, create a mobile app that should show high alerts. That really means that somebody basically comes to Content Library, says create new alert, choose status high, and in your visualizer you have it filtered it out to high. As soon as they create that content is then visible to every mobile app out there. And if they want to take it away, they can take it away anytime by simply going to that content filtering content and changing its status. So I think it's amazing what you can accomplish with this with that headless CMS concept. All right, let me see what else I got. I think that's pretty much it. I'm gonna just talk about one more slide as why it's not released yet. For obvious reasons, some minor polishing to do in UI and stuff. Need to do some localization keys and stuff. Some bugs. But one more thing we're going to really put into this before we release is the ability to package those visualizers, export them out, and then import them somewhere else. This includes the structure, some sample data to go with it, and this is not your data, just auto-generated sample data, so when somebody uses it, and the visualizer. And this is key for us to be able to integrate with Portal, because what's going to happen, Portal is going to come with a bunch of packages which just plugs into Live Visualizer and certainly gives you that functionality. This allows you as a client, as a customer, as a user to create your visualizer, export it out so you can reuse it on the next site, share it with the community, do all the fun stuff with it. This is what's keeping us from releasing it. We're hoping we'll have a beta out next week and get some more feedback. What else is on roadmap? This is version 2, 3 down the road. This is not coming up right now. We have the concept of reference fields on the roadmap. And remember, we talked about that Live Visualizer should be able to do app building for us. That means that I should be able to drag and drop an author field or another structure as a field rather than having a flat structure. So right now there's no way to do joins and stuff. That's going to come in the roadmap. So it would allow you to literally build a module like ours, like Live Blog, in about an hour with all the functionality, including SEO and everything and so forth. What else pending? What else on the roadmap is we just demonstrated 2 other data sources like SQL Query and Liveforms. Another one that's coming is generic web API. Right now we got to do integrations, right? There's tons of them going on. We will allow you to hit a URL, do a GET call to REST API, get the data either in JSON and XML, dump it out as a model, and then do whatever you want to do with it. So that's that.
Yeah, this is a visualizer for anybody's data. That is a huge deal.
Yeah. So other than that, we have a couple things that are, again, on roadmap that I'd like to see, but my team here, especially Naren somewhere down there, is going to kill me if I tell him to do it now, because he wants this released. Is I want to see version management in this. Right now, when you edit data, it's edited. There's no history of maintaining who edited and what got changed. So that's going to come in. It was architected in that way, so that's going to come in on in future version. And then we're going to get inline editing. And what that I mean is, right now you have to hit an edit icon, and it opens up a dialog, and you can edit the entire structure. But what if I just wanted to edit that first name? I should be able to click on it, edit, hit enter, without seeing a dialog. And that's what inline editing is, and that's what's going to be possible with Live Visualizer 2 or 3 down the road. This is our roadmap. We're kind of a wrap from us, so we're kind of done here. It's perfect time to take any questions. I did not know what was our official time, and I'm not sure if I went over or below, and apologize if I did.
Localization is already working.
What was that?
Nice. Well, one of the questions was about localization and whether that was supported, and we had the response here that it was working already.
Localization, so with what kind, static or dynamic?
Yes.
So static localization is in there. Dynamic localization is out of the box in there because Lifeforms has it. You can take your content and translate the structure and content into any language as you like. So somebody in a different language will see the form or the structures presented in different way. In different language, sorry.
But you were asking about the time there. Yes, normally we stop on the hour, and we went on and on because every one of us was thoroughly engaged and watching every moment of what you were doing. We weren't looking at the time either. So we've gone over. We might have lost some people just from timeline, but we've had a fantastic time. And we're already getting chime-ins there. Of course it's okay to go over time when we're getting such a packed amount of good news and information every 2 minutes. So you were putting this up here for questions. Clint, taking a look at the questions that have come online, did you see anything that Mandeep hasn't covered almost right at the same time that the question was asked?
No, I think he answered most of them. Mark had asked about image processing. So, like, if you allow a user to upload an image, can you crop it or whatever?
So, no, Mark, at the moment there is no image processing built into Lifeforms, but that can be very easily and quickly added in, especially like you're saying, to auto resize and stuff like that. Yeah, we can definitely do that.
And then I had asked about lazy loading possibilities. Like, you got pagination, but is there any lazy loading capabilities?
Oh yeah, so correct me if I'm wrong. You're basically asking if you scroll down, the page keeps infinite scroll. Yeah, that's actually very trivial. We do it all the time between different products and for clients. Yeah, I think we could probably just create that as an autocomplete template as an option if you want pagination or if you want infinite scroll. That's pretty easy to accomplish, right?
It's very easy to do.
Yeah, we can do that. We can do that very easily. So yeah, take that for the design team as something we can add even right now. I mean, instead of showing just the pagination links, they just keep scrolling down.
Yeah.
Well, so any other questions in from the team and from folks that are online? I think the chat's saying it all. We're thinking about things we can start doing, I believe. So out into beta next week, huh?
Yeah, so we'll have a beta program announced next week. I'm just going to wait for this video to go live so we can kind of reference it. This way it'll save us a lot of time in explaining what it is, what it does, and how to get people started on it. We'll go ahead and get a beta out. We'd love to get your feedback. So far it's only been, it's only seen us. We'd love to get some feedback from the community on things we can improve and what we can do. So yeah, and if all goes well, we're looking at a release definitely early next month.
Mandeep, everybody online they want to get that beta and they want to start testing it. So I think you'll have a lot of eager test subjects.
Yeah, and that's really important for us. I mean, that's why we want to send that beta program open so we can get some feedback. We've been doing that with our live storefront module, and we got some extremely valuable feedback, especially from our European customers. So we're kind of wrapped up on that too, and looking for a release on that right around the corner as well. So that one went through a beta program as well. We plan to do the same here with Visualizer.
Mandeep, I got one question. It's probably unique to me, and it's probably an edge case which you would not want to support, but it's one that I'm thinking of. So on my site, I'm using form and list, right? And I've got it where users of my site can create content items or however forms, records, whatever you want to say, right? So when they go to the page, they can edit their own record. Now, if I want to ditch performing this and go to this, but yet I still need to allow that user to retain the ability to edit a record.
Clint.
Yeah.
Your wish has been granted. It's built in.
Yeah, but so I can go.
We didn't demo it today, but it's there.
Okay. So
we specifically took the UI out because we're still trying to figure out where to best put the UI itself. But when in the permissions scheme where I was showing you the permissions, there's option to say that only the owner can edit their own records, and then nobody else can. And that means you could go ahead and create, and that's our concept of app building. Then you can go ahead and create applications like classifieds and so forth, where the owner gets to only do it. And also, when you're displaying the content, there's also an option there. I'm not sure if it's still there. I can quickly do a demo, but like I said, things are changing so quickly. Are you still seeing a screen?
Yeah, I can see it. But so it's awesome that they can edit their own item. But my point is, I'm going to have to recreate their items when I do my migration or move to this system, and then they will no longer be listed as the owner of the item. I would need to go in and either log in as them or somehow associate them. I don't know if that makes.
I am getting where there, but just to answer your question, so there's an option right here called Show on Submission. So when you're showing a data, if you check this, they will only see their own record. So basically, what you're trying to accomplish is we already have that kind of in the pipeline to do. Now the question that really comes in is how do you import data, right? That's interesting.
We were just typing that. I just typed you that question.
Yeah, and the thing is, obviously you want to import the data, but in my scenario, the users are already accustomed to editing their own record. I need to import it into your system, but yet allow them to still edit it. It may just be something I have to figure out.
Yeah, so bottom line is you're going to have to export the data out with their user IDs intact, and then import it in, and then we have to give you some kind of way to get all the data back in. I'm not sure if LiveForms has an import tool right now, Live Visualizer does, but we could probably add that certainly down the line. I know our Live Storefront does a huge amount of importing and for the product management, so we have the tools in place, and we can certainly do that. But all right, we got 90% there. We just have to solve your problem of migration.
Yeah, I mean, again, I understand that it's an edge case. I mean, it may just be that I go into each specific record down to the granular item level, and then just say, hey, this user can edit this one, to fix it.
Yeah. No, you could certainly do that. Like I said, if you don't want to fiddle with rules and you're working with that model, we have the option. So only the owner can edit, update, delete the records, and you have the way to only show records that belong to that one owner only. So that's all good. Of course, migration is a whole set of problems. I mean, we got export built in, so you can at least take your data out. But I think import is probably just as important, especially if you want to do migrations.
Sweet.
Anything else?
No, Mandeep, I think we are going to have to call an end time on this. Otherwise, we'll find ourselves here in 2 hours coming up with more great ideas. And maybe we should plan a second session when we've all kicked the tires and played with the beta for a while. Let me start a round of applause just from everybody that's online and everybody who's here that can clap and share support in the chat. This has been an excellent showing of a beta product that is close to release, that has had a mountain of thought and process put behind it, and you've done a superb job with this. And everybody on your team involved deserves a round of applause. This is very, very well done.
Thank you, guys. We're humbled and humbled by all your appreciation, and we really, truly appreciate all the support that we get from the community. Thanks for, again, having us here, giving us the opportunity to present. I believe there's another session scheduled with Ederson maybe in May. I believe in May. That will also be on Live Visualizer, and that will be post-release. So we can definitely catch up there as well and talk more about it.
Yeah. Maybe I could challenge some of us that float between user groups to say that if you pick up the beta and begin playing with it, maybe by the time that Mandeep shows in May, you can show off some things that you've built with Live Visualizer. So maybe a Clint or a David could jump in and play around with some of those things and get it going. I'll do the same.
Sounds good. I appreciate it, guys.
Thank you so much.
To wrap up and close up this evening Southern Fried User Group meeting, we really have to say thank you again to our guests and everyone from Mandeep's who was involved here. This was an excellent show. We have our next Southern Fried User Group meeting is April the 18th. It's always the third Thursday in the month, and that falls down to being April the 18th. We will see everyone then. I believe that we have a couple of different things going on for the month. I believe Smith Consulting is coming back in to speak, and we have a couple of other smaller pieces or sessions that are going to fall in place. We'll announce those soon. For those of you who participated in this, this recording will be up online on the website, Southern Fried website, in the next several days so that you can look back to these videos and pause, and especially if you have your beta version in hand the next week, you should be able to look back and see exactly how to follow along with what Mandeep was doing. So thank you again, everybody who participated and joined us for Southern Fried Online, and if you're watching the replay later on, we appreciate you being here, and we will see you next time.